Hi friends, I know I'm early, but I just want to jump on and do this painting with you now because I won't be able to do it tonight. And of course, watch it at your convenience, but hello and welcome. My name is Jackie, I'm the founder of Creative, and today I'm going to be taking you step by step through this beautiful acrylic painting here. Like I just said, I am going to be using acrylic paint, but of course you can use whatever you have, watercolor, oils, crayons, markers, colored pencils, anything is fine. Let's go ahead and just look at the materials that I have set up for today in the colors that we are going to be using. So in this painting here, I am using Craft Smart acrylic paint, but if you're using a different brand, of course, any color in the same family would work perfect, or you could make it your own and choose whatever colors make you happy. I am using Ocean Breeze, Turquoise, Grass Green, Apple Tart, Bright Blue, Black, Brown, and White today. You could add flowers of different colors in yours. You could make it a sunset instead. So just start thinking about how you'd like to build your painting, and you can get your supplies out. Also today I'm going to be using a few different brushes, and I have a big chip brush. Any big brush would work perfect, and I have my long brush. It's a flat. I like to have a few different flat brushes. I like to draw with them. I like to fill in with them. If I'm filling in a larger spot, I have this brush here. It's a nice flat as well. And my detail brush, and it is a round detail, but whatever really feels good to you. I always tell you, each painting I do, I tend to have some favorite brushes, and then my next painting, I won't even want to use those at all. So you'll just kind of find what works for you in your painting and what feels comfortable. I have a paper towel, I have my cup of water, and I ran out of I ran out of paper plates again for my palette, so I'm just using a dinner plate that I put some tin foil on. Super easy cleanup, and works just as well. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. Alright, so you can also make your lighthouse however you'd like. You could add stripes to it. You could add any colors you would like to your lighthouse if you have a lighthouse in particular that you love. This is kind of just a standard lighthouse. But I'm going to start by introducing our horizon line, and I'm going to be using my long brush for that, just so I have a little bit more control. Now when we're using a flat brush, here's a big guy. So here's a big flat, right? And hi Carol, how are you? And when we're using our flat brush, hold it nice and low like a pen or pencil or wherever feels comfortable. The bottom of your flat brush is like an ice skate, right? I know you've heard me say it before, but just really get this into, how to get a nice thin line, how to use your brush, how to feel comfortable with your brush. That's what it's all about. So when I'm using a flat brush, pretend this is my canvas or the ice, my blade of my ice skate, and I'm going to just put my skate right on that ice and just slide. I don't put any pressure on that corner or the back corner. It's all just kind of even pressure. All right, more pressure on the whole thing, the bigger the mark. Nice and light, nice thin mark. Also, when I'm using my flat brush, when I dip into my paint, pretend this is my palette, or I just wipe off on both flat sides, compressing my bristles and getting all the extra paint off. And that gets that ice skate super sharp, so I can get a really nice thin line. Hey Shelb. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to find a nice spot where I would like my horizon line. Now I can play with this. I can say, well, maybe I want more sky like I have in this one, in less water, or vice versa. I can change it to more water, less sky. Kind of play with it. Also keep in mind that we have our lighthouse, so that's pretty big, or you could do it smaller depending on, your piece. I'm going to be using my canvas vertical today. You could turn it horizontal if you'd like. All right. I'm going to kind of find maybe a third. If I break my canvas up into thirds, just kind of find a nice spot, and I'm going to be using my Ocean Breeze. So this beautiful aqua color here, I'm going to find a nice spot. And if you'd like to have the same measurement on both sides, feel free to use your brush as a ruler as well. Or if you have a ruler, grab that. But I kind of just kind of eyeball it, or you can use that measuring technique. Now I'm going to stand my brush up on the canvas and just slide it across. Now my horizon line, where my water meets my sky, I like to keep it pretty flat. Even when there's waves out there, I notice that that is really nice and flat out in the horizon. So I'm just kind of focusing. I can clean it up, but my goal is to keep that pretty flat. All right, now let's have some fun with our sky. I'm going to be using my big brush. I'm going to be using like a ton of white, introducing some Ocean Breeze. As I go up, I'm going to switch on over to my turquoise, and I'm also going to be allowing there to be lights and darks in my sky, so to add some interest, which creates almost like a cloud effect and just makes it not so flat. Gives a little bit of depth into my painting. You could use 2 blues or just 1 blue. If you just have one, you could just do lots of white with a little bit of blue and continue to get darker as you go. This one here, I just have a little bit of fun color of my Ocean Breeze in my sky. So let's get started. All right, I'm going to take my brush, tap it on into my white paint, load it on up, no drips, but plenty of paint to make that paint move. I'm going to give a nice corner into my Ocean Breeze. I'm going to play with the direction of my brush. I'm going to be using that ice skate. I'm also going to be using the width of my brush. So I'm going to start just getting that paint on there. Once you get it on there, you'll kind of notice, you know, do I want to go lighter? Do I want to go darker? Which just means changing the amount of white and changing the amount of that color. So I'm just going back and forth, allowing it to get right on my canvas, nice and smooth. And then I can go back in, add a little bit of just the color. I'm using that Ocean Breeze. And now I'm going to use that ice skate going across. I'm going to hold my brush a little further back, nice and loose. And I'm just going to start kind of pulling in. Dipping again, going in from this angle or this side. And you're going to notice the more you work it, the more you go back and forth over it, the more it's going to turn into one solid color. So I can use my ice skate and then use the whole width and just kind of dust it and soften those colors or that color in my sky to make it just a little bit more subtle. Now I'm going to work my way about halfway up my canvas with this combination of the white and that Ocean Breeze, and then we'll transition into our turquoise. So I'm going to take my brush again. I already know the combo. Tap on into that white, and I'm going to add a corner into that Ocean Breeze, and I'm going to continue moving up, about going about halfway up. Remember, kind of play with that amount of pressure, allowing lights and darks, going back in with that ice skate. If you'd like there to be a little bit more variation, if you want it to be more solid, just keep working it. Keep going back and forth, or you could even mix your color on your plate. If you painted with me before, you know I like to blend a lot on my canvas. Working my way up, about halfway up. I don't think I've shared any of my work as of late. I just delivered a really cute dog portrait. It was a dog sitting in a bed of leaves in a wheelbarrow. Super cute. And I played with some colored pencils and did a portrait. What else did I do? I'll take a look. I did some turtles. I don't know if I shared with you guys, but I definitely will. Just to show you what I've been doing. And now I'm going to start. So I'm about halfway up, maybe a little bit further, but that's okay because I am going to blend down. I'm going a little fast because I do want to have that nice blend. Rather than having my turquoise and my Ocean Breeze stop, I want it to have a nice blend into each other. So I have the Ocean Breeze, that looks good to me. Tapping back into that white paint, corner into that turquoise. And I'm going to start right above that Ocean Breeze. Back and forth, just getting all that extra paint off. Now I'm going to start bringing it down. So light pressure, dusting it in. So when I say dusting, I'm just using like the tips of my bristles and working it. And I worked it in little areas all the way across, but keeping it still flat. I'm going to go back in, adding my white, adding my corner of turquoise, starting again above, bringing it down, maybe doing a few ice skates right through, adding a little bit of interest there. Let's try adding just a little bit of that turquoise and just doing a few little dashes. Let's see. All right, those are nice and dark. Those could be cool clouds, or you could kind of blend them out. I think I'll just kind of blend them out just a little bit. Nice. Continuing up my canvas, I'm going to start getting a little bit darker, adding less white. I think I'm going to bring this white turquoise combination up just a little further, then I'll introduce that pure turquoise and blend it on down. So tapping into my white, corner turquoise, back and forth. Yeah, I think that looks good. Again, bringing that ice skate. All right, here we go. Tapping directly into my turquoise, loading that brush up, starting right above. If you notice when I'm blending, especially like a big background like this, I start with a little space in between my paint before that I'm going to blend down into, right? So I'm going to get my new color all the way across, getting all the extra paint off by just filling it, this section here. Now I'm going to bring the bottom edge of my new color down into the top edge of my old color. So using less pressure, dusting it away, bringing it down. I'm using my ice skate going back and forth so I have a little bit more control. And with introducing this pure turquoise going into my white and turquoise, I'll have, you know, nice small little slices of darker blue in there, creating that interest I'm looking for. Bring it down until it disappears. Maybe use the hole with your brush to kind of just flatten out. I'm enjoying this little dark, almost a silhouette of a cloud there. I'm going to let that be. That's going to be in the distance later when I add my puffy, fluffy clouds. And yeah, I think I'm going to add just a little bit more turquoise right at the top. So tapping my brush right on into that turquoise paint, starting at the top. There it is. Remember, if you're rewatching this at our scheduled time, you can pause and work on it a little bit slower, but I like to work fast so I can really allow those colors to have the opportunity to blend while they are wet. All right, I think that looks really good. I'll bring you a little closer just so you can see some of those variations, the darks, the lights, the marks that I've created, which are going to give depth into my sky once I add those white fluffy clouds. Awesome. All right, I'm going to put this guy down. I may use him a little bit for my water later, but I'm going to get my land in first because the water comes up on top of my sand and it will just look a little bit more natural if I do it that way. So let me put this guy down. All right, well, I hope you're having a good day. Clearing up here. All right, so your water's edge, right? Every time it comes onto the water, back out, in and out, it creates a different shoreline, right? A different kind of like pattern of the edge of the water. So yours can be very different from mine. It could be one smooth curve, or it can have these little bumps like I have here. Let's kind of just feel it out. Let's just look and kind of plan our painting. I have, a good amount of water coming in, and then I have the spot for my lighthouse, and I'm going to just show you with my hand on there just so you can see like how big this area is, just so you can see. There we go. That's a little better. All right. Just kind of show you that. So I know I need to have enough room for my lighthouse to sit nice and comfy. Then I can really play with the curve of my shoreline. Let's go ahead and add the back edge of this land here that my lighthouse is going to sit on. So just kind of find the middle of my canvas. Here it is. All right. And I'm just going to move over maybe 2 inches from the middle to the side. All right. And that is where I'm going to make my little dot, and that's going to be the edge of my land. Hi, Auntie Pat. How are you? Maybe we could have Auntie Pat, maybe we could have a picnic. I was thinking we can all get together and sit outside and have a picnic. Let me know. But anyway, I think I'm going to pick up actually my, my long brush. And I'm going to find that middle spot again. I'm going to be using brown and white to create a nice light brown sand color. Also, with making sand, every beach is different, and I noticed that you could add maybe a little bit of orange to your sand color, or even a little bit of yellow. Play with that. I'm going to be using just a brown and white combo in this painting here. Alright, so I have some white on my brush, I also have some brown, and I'm just wiping on both flat sides, just allowing that to mix just for a moment. Alright, let's find the middle of our canvas here, and I'm going to move over a little bit, about 2 inches or so, either direction, whichever side you want your lighthouse on, and I'm going to make a dot. So find that middle, move over, you can put your other finger here, just kind of picturing 2 inches, eyeball it, make a little mark. Now I'm going to just go ahead and right at that horizon line, draw my land line back there. So now I know that that's how far this land is going to be. And in my painting, this bottom part here is almost the same distance out as my point up here. So we already have one, so let's just drop the other one down, and we'll have 2 marks, points of our land. All right, so I kind of know where this one is, right? We just did that, and I'm going to move it down. I could move it either way just to change it up a little bit, or you can just keep it right underneath it. All right, before we go ahead with our paintbrush, I'm going to take my finger and just really kind of picture my edge of my water. Now, you could make this a little bit deeper into your canvas, because we are going to put our... Hi, David. Yeah, I'm early today with teaching, but I just had to get it in because I couldn't do it tonight. We were scheduled for 7:30, but we're going to do this painting in about an hour, so if you have any supplies, join us. And you always can rewatch too, and thanks for joining. So I have 2 points. Now I'm taking my finger and I'm just kind of picturing how I want my water's edge to be. So I'm picturing it, drawing it with my finger. All right, I think I got this. I'm going to stand this bad boy right on up. Try standing that up. Back of the brush should be pointing at you. And I'm just going in, playing with my edge. That feels good to me. All right, let's do this. I'm going to switch to my bigger flat brush. So I'm going to put down my long, pick up my white grip, and I'm going to start working on my sand. by my lighthouse, I'm going to be a little bit darker, and as I come down, I'm going to get lighter. So that means more brown. So brown on my brush first, a little bit of white. I'm going to start way back here. And you can use your ice skate, you could use your whole width of your brush, whatever feels good. Also, you can go over that line. That is just our pencil mark, so we can go right over it. Now, as I go down my canvas here, I'm going to start introducing more white and get lighter as I go. So more white, a little bit of brown, see what happens. I'm going to start below that darker brown so I can blend on up into it just like we did in our sky. So I'm not looking for stripes from light to dark. I'm looking for a nice transition. So more white. You're going to see what I have on my brush. That looks good to me. And I'm going to keep my brush stroke flat, right to left, back and forth, because I want my sand to really look like it is sitting and not standing up, jumping into the sky. White, a little bit of brown, till you have a happy sand color that makes you feel good. Again, you could play with adding a little bit of orange, a little bit of yellow, whatever your sand on your beach, whatever you think that combination is, try it out. Also, you can allow there to be some little darks and light spots in there. That will give you the look of maybe there's some dips in the sand created by the wind, right? Or people's footprints that kind of filled in, or it would be really cool to see some footprints in this sand. So start thinking about that. While I'm here, I'm going to get a little bit darker right on the edge of my water. Now I am going to bring my water up on top of that darker sand, so I can get a little bit bigger knowing that it's going to get smaller, all right? So let me just grab my long brush because it's a little bit smaller. So I'm using a smaller flat brush. And I'm going to just focus on this bottom edge. I'm going to bring you a little closer just so you can check this out. So I'm using my brush and just kind of wiggling it, following the line. Back here it's already dark, so that's just going to kind of blend away. You could go darker if you wanted to with maybe adding, if the pure brown doesn't work, you could add a little bit of black, but I think that looks good. And you can get lighter if you want. You can do whatever you want with whatever your color of your sand for your beach is. Something like that. All right, nice. Let's talk about that water. In my water, I have Ocean Breeze, like I have in my sky, and I also have a bright blue. If you're using Craft Smart, it is Ocean Breeze and it is bright blue. You could use multiple blues if you're not using this brand. You know what your ocean looks like. 4 colors, actually. One color combination that I really enjoy when I'm painting the water here in Plymouth. I like to add blue and green, and it gives it a really cool combination of colors, and it feels really good. So if you want to get that kind of look, I suggest using maybe some blue and some green if you don't have the colors that I have here. All right, let me grab my white grip brush. You could use your big brush as well, but I think I'm going to use my white grip just because I like using it. So I'm going to give it a nice wipe, wash white, because it does have some brown on it. All right, here we go. I'm going to start by my water, and I'm going to go this way in, and then I'm going to bring that dark blue that way. All right, we're going to kind of do a nice little blend here. So I'm going to tap on into that Ocean Breeze, And I'm going to just start filling in. I can definitely add some white to this. And if my brown is very wet, I'm just going to be aware of that. I will go up on top of that in a moment. But for now, I can kind of just get nice and close to it. Also, if you have a blow dryer, you can totally keep that on hand just to hurry up the drying process. Because being patient is hard, but it's definitely something you need in art and in painting, right? Allowing one layer to dry in order for the other layer to go on top and all that. All right, so that feels good. I think I'm going to continue bringing that on out, maybe leaving a little space here and there, not being as tight and heavy. Great. All right, here we go. Not doing anything to my brush. I'm going to dip directly into that bright blue. And I'm going to start on this side. Now I'm trying to keep my horizon line nice and flat. And I'm also going for kind of like a jagged edge rather than like a straight stop to where one color blends into the other. I can add white to this. I'm going to bring this kind of all the way back here to that point because that's further out, right? The lighthouse is far away from us. So this back point here, I can get nice and dark. I might bring my land up a little bit if I need to. You always can add some of that ocean breeze as well to kind of soften any of that. Think about the amount of pressure. If I just kind of dust it away, I won't have like a stop and start. Dipping back on into that bright blue. Whew, I got some black on there, but hey, maybe something cool will come out of that. So I'm starting, I can go back and forth to kind of get it going, but I am going to pull in. And when it's a little bit warm, our paint dries faster. So I want to have a pretty good amount of paint on there, and also going back to that ocean breeze, that base color, and adding that to help blend is very helpful. I have a tickle, hold on. Excuse me. So I'm starting to really like that. Step back from your painting. Sometimes you get too caught up too close to your painting and you're not really seeing the whole thing. Think about how you're going to be viewing your painting from maybe your sofa while looking up at it on the wall. So do step away and see what's happening. Now my edge here is pretty dry, so I'm going to go on in and add that ocean breeze back on there, maybe adding a little bit of white as well. Maybe giving it a little bit of a wipe, just kind of blend it nicely. And I'm going to just start introducing it on top of my sand line. And I don't have to be like totally smooth. It can have some bumps, and that already gave it a lot of let's say a form of thickness. Our water isn't like a piece of paper, it has height to it, right? So this gave it more depth into our painting here. I see something that I do want to kind of change, and we have that opportunity here. So I'm going to just bring my land up a little bit. My water just went above, and I want to just let that land sit on top. All right, cool. I'm going to give my brush, my long brush, a flat brush, a quick little wash wipe, and I'm going to add some interest and some foam into my water. So I'm going to see my foam, the white in the water, closer to the shore line. So way back here, up on towards our horizon line, I'm not going to see that white foam, right? But as I'm standing right here, I am going to see it in my water and at the water's edge. As it starts going back, it may be just a little bit here and there because it's further away and I won't necessarily see it. Also in my painting on this one, I do have some rocks that are out by my water here, which are the water is kind of hitting it, creating a little bit of white foamy water right around there. But we'll get there. But I just kind of wanted to show you, where to kind of focus these white caps in our water. I can always add the ocean breeze to this white to kind of not make it so intense. And I'm going to go right on into my white. I'm going to wipe on both flat sides, get all the extra paint off, and really compress my bristles. And I'm going to be using my ice skate edge when I'm applying the paint because I want a nice thin line. So we definitely are using that ice skate today. All right, so let's go ahead and just start. I like to kind of make these like almost like W's, elongated W's, or M's or Z's in my water. So think about how it's moving. So up, up, and maybe just pull it back. And you can soften it. Wiping off again. I'm going to do another one here. So I'm going to do one wave coming in, 1, 2, 3. And then I can wipe off my brush, and I'm just going to slightly kind of pull back using the tips of my bristles, just softening. And I'm going to go back and maybe add some highlights here and there. I'm going to go right to that water's edge. And you could use let me find one. You can maybe use a fan brush. If you have a fan brush, tap it on into your white and start kind of just building, wipe off the extra paint, and you can start building up that foam right on the edge. Feel free to add any of that ocean breeze to kind of soften your foam. I'm only going to do it till here, and then I can do a little bit here and there. Or you could use like another brush with a crazy tip and just kind of tap on it to kind of stipple it away. Maybe adding a little bit of that ocean breeze on top of it. Just kind of playing and building it up. Let's see. There we go. I might do just like a little one here. And again, your painting will kind of tell you, so kind of step back, just doing some light lines here and there. Step back, take a look. I think that feels good. All right, let's let that dry for a few minutes and let's go up to our sky. I'm going to focus on my clouds, and I'm just going to show you 2 different ways to make your clouds that I have in this painting here. Just 2 different techniques. One is more of using kind of like a wild brush and tapping, still building it the same way I would these clouds here. So I'm going to pull you back a little bit just so you can see both. All right, so the first thing I do when I'm adding a cloud like this is I say, all right, well, how long do I want my cloud to be? Where's the placement of this cloud? And what I'm going to do is add the length of my cloud on there. So I'm going to dip on into the white paint. I'm using a nice small flat brush, one that I like to draw with. And I'm going to find a nice spot for my cloud. I think I'm going to have it coming off my canvas like this one here. It's going to say there's more beyond my canvas. So I'm going to find a nice spot and I'm going to figure out the length. How long do I want my cloud to be? Now I'm going to lightly, you don't need a lot of paint because we can kind of change this or soften it. And I added the length. Now I know my length of that cloud. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, picture a staircase, right? So we have the highest top stair, and then we're going to step down, right, until we get to that ground. Here's our ground, that line. So I'm going to say, well, where's the highest part of my cloud? And mine is going to be kind of off my canvas. So I'm going to make a slight curve, and now I'm going to drop down. Now you could do as many drops, curves, as you'd like, or as little as you'd like. So I'm just going to kind of let it do its own thing. Play with the size. That feels good. And now when I'm filling in my cloud, I want to kind of play with my brush stroke. So I'm using kind of soft, curving brush strokes. Now, do you want the bottom of your cloud to be flat, or do you want to have a nice curve to them? Maybe I want mine to be a little soft and playful, so I'm just going to do smiles and frowns, slowly building it up. Take a step back. Maybe allowing some of that background color to come through. Or what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of that turquoise to my brush. And I'm going to add a little bit of shadow to the bottom edge of my cloud. And these are going to be more like kind of smiles or, yeah, little curves going up here and there on the bottom part. And I can go back in with white now. So it's almost like a, you know, going back and forth, and I can let it dry completely and then add more solid white to really make it pop. But for now, I'm allowing this blue to kind of blend in, making it a little softer. And I kind of like how that feels. You even can do some wispy guys underneath it. All right, I like the way that feels. Now we get that stairs in our mind, that picture. Let's go ahead and do another cloud. Keep in mind, we want to have our room for our lighthouse. Maybe you want a cloud behind it, which would give depth, right? And maybe, or maybe you don't. So just kind of keep that in mind. Let's do another one of these, and then I'll show you the other style cloud. All right, so tapping on into that white paint, wiping on both flat sides, picturing where I want my cloud. This time I'm going to do mine right on the canvas, so none of it's going to be hanging off. And I'm just going to decide how long do I want my cloud. So I'm going to add that line. All right, that looks good. Now picture that staircase. Do you want your highest step to be in the middle, to the right, to the left? I'm going to do mine a little bit over here. So I'm going to make that mound. Before I put my paintbrush down, I picture it with my finger, draw it with my finger. There's that mound. I can slowly kind of step it down a little bit, bring it down. And the steps are just kind of rounded. And I'm just going to let it kind of fade out. Now again, do you want that bottom to be solid, straight, or do you want to have a little bit of fluffy? Rounded bottom. Clouds are constantly changing. The sky is different throughout the day. So there really is no right or wrong with your clouds. It's kind of just whatever cloud you love. So just going in, kind of doing curved brush strokes just to give it a little bit of a fluffy feel. When I'm adding this layer here, I may have a little bit of that background shining through, and that's fine. I could just leave it like that, or later I could give it a second coat here and there to really brighten and give some highlights into my cloud. Just like we did here, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of that turquoise right onto my brush. I'm going to focus on that bottom edge of my cloud. Just adding a little bit of shadow. And these are kind of like almost smile scoops. And I can just let that kind of blend. I know I can go back in and add my bright white, which we will later, to really make some of those, maybe the top parts of the clouds really pop. And I could do another cloud if I'd like. I think I'm going to show you one of these next little style of clouds over here first, and then I'll go back in. Alright, so I'm going to grab just a few brushes to play with. And thanks for joining today. I know I'm early. You can definitely rewatch this later with all your supplies out. I just couldn't get it in tonight, so here we are, and I'm happy to be with you. So I am going to work on more of a textured tapping method for my cloud. We're going to kind of think of it the same way as building the cloud from the length, bringing the height, and kind of letting it step down. But the way I'm creating the coloring or filling in my cloud is going to be a little bit different than these. These were more of like curved brush strokes. This is going to be more of kind of like a tapping. So I have, you know, some bigger brushes here with kind of some crazy tips. I have a fan brush, maybe that will be fun to play with. I also have a few of my flat brushes to draw with. I guess I'll start with my long brush, because you know I like that one too. And I'm going to do another kind of half off. So I'm going to figure out the length, and I'm just going to lightly get that in. Highest point, you can maybe kind of map that out by just tapping. So I'm tapping this time, and I kind of can draw those steps down. And you can always extend. You don't have to stick to that exact length, right? You can make up the rules on that one. And now I tapped a bigger brush into that white paint. So I'm just tapping the tips in, tapping out the extra paint. And I'm going to start tapping on my canvas. I can tap. I also can kind of smudge it too by doing some brush strokes. I can play with depth by adding in some of that sky color, that turquoise. I'm maybe hitting it here and there because I know I can go back and really build those highlights. So it might be a little bit blue right now. Oh, you can't even see, I'm sorry. So I just tapped. I'm gonna let that be, let it dry for a moment, and then we'll go in with all of our highlights. I also have some of these kind of wispy clouds up there. I could use maybe like a bigger flat brush, and I'm going to use it kind of like on a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to tap on that bottom edge. So I'm going to put that white on my brush, wipe off the extra paint, and I'm going to kind of focus, you know, maybe right here I want one. And I'm going to use the bottom edge of that brush, tapping super lightly. You don't want to have too much paint on your brush because you want to build it up. I want to allow there to be space, or allow there to be the background shining through, so I can slowly build it up. So I'm keeping these just smaller, just tapping. Maybe they're just some little wispy clouds. I also, instead of the tapping technique, I could kind of pull using that bottom edge. Play, right? That's what it's all about. Maybe kind of smudge out a little bit of that tap. play with the amount of pressure. Go back in with pure white to make those pop. Yeah, so sorry about that. I totally cut off that cloud. And so I'm just going to kind of tap on this top part. And when you kind of look at a cloud, if you could touch it, right? I always like to kind of think about touching what I'm painting and really feeling it. So I'm touching my cloud, and in my cloud I can have like bumps like in the cloud, right? So it's not just on the tops and on the bottom, it's throughout the cloud. There can be these bulbous, you know, poofy cloud tops. So think about maybe adding with that pure white a few little mounds right on in that cloud. So instead of going here, hitting it with that white, adding a little bit of a highlight, allowing there to be darker spots as well. And this is really going to give you depth to your clouds. So you can add as many as you'd like, and you can kind of see what style you like better for your clouds. I'm just going to soften this out a little bit, just kind of dusting away. Driving on the highway is the best for clouds, right? Just kind of playing with my sky. All right, here we go. Let's focus on that lighthouse for a little bit, and then we'll finish up adding all of our fun little details to our painting. So my lighthouse is, I'm going to be using white. I'm going to be using a little bit of black to create a little bit of shadow. You could introduce, if you wanted to do like stripes in yours, you can do that as well. I'm going to have a light and a dark side to give roundness. Yeah, let me see. Now you can see both of them full, I think. There you go. Thanks for that. I'm sorry. But let's just take a moment and look at our lighthouse. So I have my paintbrush here, and this is just going up and down straight, right? So I'm going to kind of do a slight angle. Now, it's not a huge angle. Here's straight, here's the angle. So straight, here's the angle. The bottom of my lighthouse is a little wider than the top of my lighthouse, right? So I'm going to break it up into a few different sections. I'm going to start with the base, and then I'm going to have this middle section here, and then I have the light in the roof, all right? I suggest practicing drawing it out on paper first, and picturing it on your canvas. Draw it with your hand, then go ahead with your paintbrush. I'm definitely using this ice skate edge today, and let's get this started. So I'm going to get the base down. I want the base to be in my sand, and I want it to be down in there. And I'm also thinking that my lighthouse is round, so I'm not going to do a flat line. I'm going to do kind of like a curved line, and so like a slight smile. And that's going to be the bottom of my lighthouse. So it's in the sand, it's standing there nice and strong and stable, and it has a little bit of roundness to it. That's going to set us up for getting our nice angles in and creating a smaller top and keeping that bottom a little bit bigger. So I'm going to dip on into that white paint, and I'm just going to use my paintbrush and just kind of guide, you know, where I want my base of my lighthouse to be. So it's in my sand, not just on that very top, down into it about 1/4 inch. Maybe make a dot on one side, with my finger, I placed another dot on the other side. So that is the widest part of my lighthouse. Now, I know that my lighthouse is round, so it's going to have a little bit of a curve to that bottom. I'm going to stand my brush up. I could do a straight line across first. Let's do that. Let's do a straight line across. And now let's give it a slight curve. A little smile. Perfect. There it is. Now, let's picture how tall we want our lighthouse to be, right? So I'm picturing it. Here's my hand on this one. From my palm to my top of my middle finger, it might be a little bit higher than that. So that's like my whole lighthouse. Yours could be different, larger or smaller, but just kind of getting an idea. Maybe I'll put my hand right there and just make a dot. So I know that that's going to be the top of my lighthouse. That feels good. Now let's break down that section there. I am going to create a line going from that top part just down to the center. So I just have like if it was like a trunk of a tree, right, of the center of my lighthouse. Now I'm going to take the measurement of the bottom of my lighthouse, and I want it to be, let's check it out, almost half the size of the base is the top part here, right? So I'm going to kind of find that. I can find halfway, maybe a little bit bigger, and I'm going to bring it down. And that is going to be this length here. So it's about 2/3 the way over of the length of the base. It's a little bit bigger than half of that size. And don't overthink this. Just get it down. Practice on your paper. So it's smaller than the base. So now I have the length of the top. I'm going to start with a flat line because I can curve it later. I'm going to do mine in black just so you can see, because I'm sure you can't see. So I'm going to do mine in black. Continue with your white. So I have my bottom. I now have that center line, and I have this part here. Almost looks like an anchor. All right, here we go, my friends. We're going to do those nice angles down. So let's just kind of see how that angle would be. You don't want to have like a triangle point. You just have to have a slight angle. So I'm going to start from right here using that ice skate. Again, you're using white. And I'll clean up that line in a moment. And there it is. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and start filling in. I'm going to grab maybe my white grip, my little bigger of a flat brush, just to fill it in. I have white on my brush, and I could give it like an all over white. Remember, you're using white to draw with. I'm just using that black so you can see. So you could do a quick all over white, maybe not even getting total coverage. And now we can think about that light to dark. Now in this one here, it's barely a difference, right? It's just a lighter, like a light gray, and then into my white. You even could add a little bit of brown to this, whatever you like. But my goal here is to get a little bit darker on this side and get lighter as I go over. Remember, you're using just white to draw with. Let me just give my brush a quick little wipe, and I do need some more white on my palette. All right, here we go. Dipping on into my white paint. I'm going to start filling in, maybe adding, once I kind of do it all over, quick all over, I could add like the tiniest dot of black because it's super intense. Then what I'm going to do is just on one side, choose which side you want to be a little bit darker. Now, that was like the tiniest dot ever, and it's a lot darker, right? So you only need a little. I'm then going to go ahead and wipe off my brush. Now I'm going to work that edge, again, there we go, that edge across. So I worked that tiny little dot of black all the way down the side. And now I'm going to pull, and you can kind of pull it in a slight curved smile because our lighthouse is round, right? And I'm just pulling it all the way across until it disappears. Again, like we've been doing this whole painting, that blending and the goal of not having like a start and stop, right? Having a nice transition. One thing I can do, wipe off my brush, dip on into that white paint. Let's start on the other side. Again, you wouldn't have my black outline unless you wanted it. I just did that so you could see. If your back, like your sky is super light and you're having a hard time letting your lighthouse stand out because it's so close, you could add a little bit more gray. You could add some brown to your lighthouse. And I know I can go back in and play with it again. Let me just get rid of my little black line. So the goal here was to have a lighter, darker side without having like a big start-stop. And I think that looks good. Once I have my grass and rocks, I think I'll be really happy. All right, I have a few more steps of my lighthouse. I'm gonna grab a smaller flat brush. Here we go. So you can get as detailed as you like. You can pull up a picture of your favorite lighthouse and really copy that, or just kind of go for it. I'm going to put my white on my brush, wipe on both flat sides. I'm going to create this part of my lighthouse, which is just two different shapes or two different marks. And it is a like a band going across, and then I have an elongated kind of rectangle that's curved. Think about how our lighthouses are round, right? All right, here we go. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for joining. Thank you so much for that donation. I did get it, and I wanted to say thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being creative with me. And I know you're enjoying those colored pencils. And I definitely am looking forward to doing more of those with you all. So look for those coming soon. I'll let you know. I have a few that I've been doing with a private group. This company, I do an event with them every Friday night, and we've been doing colored pencil. I need to do those ones with you guys because I think you'll really like them. Also, with those colored pencils, I highly suggest just, you know, I bought my mom a Prismacolor set that was $17. It wasn't much, but they're beautiful. I think there might be 24 of them in there. And just such a difference from Crayola. There's nothing wrong with Crayola, but you're going to really love having a little bit of a higher quality colored pencil. So grab those if you can, if you're enjoying those colored pencils. All right, so I extended on both sides, and I kind of rounded the tips. Now I'm going to add, keeping in no wider than that last base part of our top of that lighthouse base. I'm just going to bring it up. So I'm going to create a rectangle. I will give it a little bit of a roundness in a second. Again, I'm going to add a little bit of black, and you can do this as well to really define it. So I put some black on my brush, and I'm wiping it off to get just the tips and just have a barely any on there. And I'm going to just define these edges. So right down here, I'm using my ice skate. And now I'm thinking about that roundness. So I'm giving it a slight frown. Slight curve. Bringing it up as high as I'd like. Stepping back, really seeing what that looks like. I'm just pulling it up. Again, not going any further than this top of the mane. The first piece we did here, that top, was a little bit longer. Sarah, I love it too. All right, here we go. Let's get that light in. I'm going to use white to start, and then I'm going to introduce a little bit of that Ocean Breeze and turquoise because I want it to look like glass. So this is another kind of square rectangle. Maybe it's a little bit thinner or not as wide as that last rectangle piece we just created. And I'm just adding almost like a little square or cube. My brush was a little dirty, but that's okay. I'll add that color. All right, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and dip on into that Ocean Breeze. Now I'm gonna grab, just put my length of my brush right on this side here, and I'm gonna slowly drag it across. Just letting it blend in. I can also add a little bit of that ocean or turquoise and do the same thing. It's just a reflection. I can go in with pure white and soften. I can build that up as much as or as little as I'd like. Now that top of that roof of my lighthouse, I'm just gonna have like a dome, and I'm gonna put a little ball on top. So I'm gonna be using my detail brush to get that little circle on top on, but I'm gonna start with my white and I'll add some shadow. So my little frown dome. And I'm gonna have my little balcony, and that's gonna kind of tie everything together. Right now, it looks a little wild, and that's what's great about painting. I was at my parents' house last night, and I was using colored pencil. My mom's like, how is it going? What stage are you at? I'm like, it's at the wild stage, that crazy stage where, it's easy to say, what the heck is this? I'm not going to do anymore. Or you just kind of work through it. And it always feels so good once you work through it. So kind of like puzzling with doing a puzzle, really anything in life, kind of you have to work at it, figure it out, problem solve. All right, I got that little top on. Now with my detail brush, I'm just going to add a little bit of, I just put some white and black on, kind of made a dark gray. And I'm just pulling across, just defining that area, just giving a little bit of a shadow. Maybe adding a little topper. He has like a little hat on. We'll get there, don't worry. I can go in, kind of clean up any of those edges, maybe add a little bit of blue just to define and add some interest. All right, what I'm gonna do is add my little railing, and it's super simple. Just need a good detail brush or one that you're comfortable with. I'm going to roll that round detail brush on the side, getting the extra paint off and sharpening that tip like a pencil. And I'm going to add this little railing here. So on the second bump up, I'm going to add these end posts like this. So it's going to come up about halfway up that glass section of my light. Now I'm going to add a slight frown for the top, so a slight curve to the top of that for my railing. Now I'm going to add my posts. They're going to be equally spaced, rolling my tip of my bristles on my palette, sharpening it like a pencil, and then I'm just going to go adding my posts. And I can go in. So when you're working on something, it doesn't have to be the final touch, right? You can go back, redefine it. I think I'm going to get a little bit lighter. You can really play as long as you want until you're happy with it, really. Adding maybe a little bit of shadow here. So if you're adding shadow, you want to add the same side as you did to your main lighthouse, right? So it's all on this side here. I'm just going to add a few little windows on my lighthouse. You can kind of have them staggered. You could add a door to these. I'm going to just dip on into my black, and I'm going to just do 3 little squares right on top of each other, on maybe towards the side of my lighthouse. It could be right in the middle, and I'm just kind of picturing how far apart I want them. And maybe one more. All right, and I'm going to add a little bit of white, and I'm just going to pull some of that wet black, mixing with that white, because these are windows, so it's just going to create a little bit of like a reflected window glass. Yeah, that looks good. And if you wanted to go back in with some fresh white, now that this is dry, and add a little bit of a brighter side, a brighter layer right here, sure can. You could add a door. You do whatever you'd like. I think that feels good. All right, let's have some fun. Let's start building our grass. So I'm going to start with dark, and then I'm going to put the light in front. 5 million little pieces using that ice skate again. Told you we would be using that today. So I have grass green if you're using Craft Smart, and I may even add a little bit of black. So I can kind of make a little puddle of that grass green on my palette. So I just kind of pulled a little over here, and I added just the tiniest bit of black, and I'm just letting it mix. It's creating a nice dark, rich green. What I'm going to do is build some grass up here on the side. Trying to use that edge. Just picturing how you want to see that grass growing. Maybe it's a little lower and gets higher. The grass over here is going to be a little bit shorter because it's further away, right? So I'm just going to take my time right here. That feels good. Maybe I'll do a few little layers. Maybe now I'll just put right on into that bright green, white on both flat sides, adding a few of those little lines in there. Followed by that apple tart, light green. Thinking about how it's kind of filling in. How thick or how thin do you want your lines? Maybe you want to let that dark green really dry so you have a nice transition or a nice pop of one color from the other. So I'm going to do this grass green here. And now I'm going to do white with my grass green. And I'm really going to kind of, because this grass is the closest to me, so it's where I'm going to see more of that individual blades. So I'm trying to take my time, really getting lines, different lengths, just like that. And now for our rocks. Doing great. So I have a pile of rocks that I'm going to add to this here. And I have a little grouping and then a few that go out into my water. They are going to be out of black and white, which makes gray. I'm going to start with kind of like one tone of gray. And then I'm going to add highlights and shadows, which will define each rock. So white, black, creating the gray that you're looking for. You could put brown in it, you could put some blue in it, whatever color you want your rocks to be. And now I'm going to think about how it's kind of piled up. So I'm just going to do kind of like a shape like that, almost thinking about my cloud almost. Highest point, low point, something like that. All right, I'm going to fill this in with that middle gray that we just created. All right, now let's define it. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of white on our brush. I'm using my flat brush. I feel comfortable with it, but you could use a smaller round detail or flat detail, whatever feels good. And now I'm going to say, all right, here is 1. And I can go back in with my dark gray to soften it. 2, 3, 4. So now I have, I'm not doing very good with this camera today, I'm sorry. But now I have my 4 points, or as many mounds as I like, or individual rocks, right? So now I'm going to add a little bit of black, wipe off on both flat sides, and I'm going to add the shadow. I'm going to go in and say, well, I think the bottom, and maybe where they're attaching, where they're touching and overlapping. All right, let's blend. So I have my main color, my middle gray. I have my highlight, which really defined the tops individual of my rocks. And then my darker, either dark gray or black, that showed the bottom and where they kind of overlap and touch. Now I can go in with the wipe, I just wiped off my brush. And now I'm going to soften the top of the, or in the black that goes into the gray, the bottom of that white, and I'm just kind of tapping, dusting away. I can always add more slowly. I think I'm going to add a little bit more of a highlight right here. I kind of lost that and I liked it. So I'm going to add a little bit more white. I just really want to show that top of this rock. There they are. Maybe there's a little guy right here. Grab that middle gray. Add a little rock right here. A little mound, kind of a flat bottom because he's in that ground, in the sand. Add the highlight for the top. Add that shadow for the bottom. And then I will just kind of blend that out a little bit. And you can do as many as you'd like. I think I'm going to do maybe 3 little guys in my water right here. And then we're going to get our land out there and our few little rocks, and we are done. Doing so good. Here we go. So when you're done, if you wouldn't mind sending me either in a private message or in the comments below a picture of your work. If you have any questions, send me a picture or your question, and I'd be more than happy to give you any suggestions. So I have my middle gray shapes, and I'm going to add my little highlight. And with these rocks, I could definitely add my shadow, or I could say there may be a little bit of foam caused from the rock hitting the water, or the water hitting the rock. All right, let's go ahead onto our land way out here. And our land way out here is right on that horizon line. I have a nice interesting line up top. It could be flat, it could be really high. It's about, I don't know, 3/4 inch, an inch highest point, and it kind of flattens out as it goes. I'm going to be using brown, black, and white for this part of my land, And I'm also going to think about how far out I want it to go. Let's see. I want to have enough room in here, so I'm just kind of looking at this space here, that open ocean, and I think I kind of found a little spot right here. That looks good to me. Maybe grab some brown or black, and wherever you decide, you can make that little mark. Now, right on that horizon line, I'm just going to glide over, and now I can make that interesting mound, however I want my land to look. I'm going to add white, I'm going to add black, brown, and I'm just kind of letting it do its thing on the canvas. Slow it down when you want to kind of have that nice solid edge, making sure you have enough paint so you don't have like because sometimes the texture of your canvas will pick up just a little bit of that paint, and you'll have kind of like these little almost pixels. So if you slow it down and add a good amount of paint, you'll get rid of those. All right, I like that. I might add a little bit more white. And I'm gonna grab a nice detail and add just a few little rocks that are out in my water. I'm gonna add, they're just gonna be little marks. You can play with the color combo. I'm just gonna kind of continue with that brown, brown black combo. You can add some highlights, just a lighter. I wouldn't go pure white with the highlight on these rocks like I did over on the other side. I'm just gonna go lighter because they're further away, so I wouldn't really see bright white or the brightest, so it would just be a little more subtle right on those tops. Maybe not even on all of them. And I'm gonna just show that there's a little bit of that white water. So I put it on my detail, and I'm just gonna be super light, and I'm keeping in mind how my water is flat laying there. It could be spraying up, but it's still gonna read as flat. Just kind of touching, compared to like the size of the rock, the size of the mark, keep them in proportion. Maybe there's a little bit of white right at that edge. Maybe there's some rocks right by that land. And of course, you know, look in your sky. Do you need any more clouds? Do you want some birds? If so, I'd practice. And with this one, I'm going to add like a dark gray silhouette of some seagulls, or like a medium gray. And I'm gonna let them kind of just fly here and there. So with the tip of my bristles, I practiced on my paper first. Maybe making them a little bit lighter. Different sizes, bigger, this closer, smaller, further away. Like that, and there it is. So take your time adding any other details you'd like into your painting. Any questions, please feel free to send me a message, and I'd like to see what you've come up with. Maybe you have some beautiful flowers in your grass, or you have some footsteps in your sand. But I hope you had fun. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to painting with you all again soon. All right, thanks friends, bye.